This episode of I Work For Him is brought to you by SaferNet. Online, safernet.com. You've tuned into I Work For Him, the voice of collaboration for the faith and work movement.
And we are your hosts, Jim and Martha Brangenberg, and our mission is to transform the workplace of every Christian into a mission field. What does that look like in your workplace? Well, let's find out right now.
Hell, if you've ever been in business and had to find someone to process your credit cards or ACH withdrawals, it could be a nightmare. You never know if you're getting the best deal, and the percentages you pay to get your own money for the goods that you've sold could sometimes take your breath away. Now add in that many payment processors contribute from their own profits, which are your profits, towards the organizations that support exactly the opposite of a biblical worldview. They're supporting the enemy's campaign to destroy people and eliminate our country. Seriously? So where do you go? Today, we're going to hear from two powerful kingdom warrior women who have a story you need to hear and a business you need to check out. Jodi Durst and Kimberly Coley, welcome to I Work For Him.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
So as we do with every show, we always start off with this question.
So, Kimberly, let's start with you. What is your Jesus story? How did he become Lord of your life?
Oh, it's a long story, so I will try to make it brief. But I grew up Catholic and more doctrine, and you know how that is. And years ago, a mentor of mine gave me a book. It's called Florence Shinn, The Complete Works. And it explains God and Jesus and living your day-to-day life. Very different than rules. Like I grew up thinking I was going to get in trouble with God for eating meat on a Friday during Lent. So this was the first book that said, oh my gosh, you can actually have the flow and be at peace and bring God into your business. And a few years ago, Jodi and I realized, because obviously being in the financial world, I thought, okay, I've got my spirituality in the evenings and on weekends. But then during the day I work, and I never realized that this is nothing more than a platform, even if it is, payment processing and we're highly knowledgeable, I can bring that into my day to day. And someone asked me once, what is your ministry going to be? And I stood there for a minute and said, me? What do you mean? My ministry? And that's when it started clicking for me that I could bring it into the day to day.
Your ministry is payment processing.
It is.
With ethics and doing it with integrity, that's what your ministry is.
So, Jodi, what about you? I love hearing Kimberly's, and it's given us a little bit of glimpse into your own personal life. Tell us your Jesus story.
Absolutely. I wish I had some flashy Jesus story, but I don't. So I was blessed to have a grandma that was just like on fire for Jesus. And so I got I wouldn't say drug, like I love to go to church with her and see her singing in church, and just got to know Jesus in a different way. So I think I became a Christian as a very small child. So I can't remember life without him, but I've definitely had my struggles over the years and have went astray and been that lost little sheep that has gotten brought back. So just blessed to have some really amazing women actually in my life that were on fire for the Lord.
It's amazing how many times we've heard that story on this show. Nobody stands a chance against a praying grandma. So just putting it out there, those of you out there that are grandmas, don't ever miss that point. No child stands a chance against a praying grandma. We have heard that story so many times, haven't we?
Yes, for sure.
All right. So Jodi, start us off. What kind of work does the Lord have you doing?
I think we have came to the realization, just like you said earlier, Jim, like payment processing is nothing more than a platform. It's where our expertise is, and it gives us that ability to just do good in the world through this platform that we've been blessed with. So we are trying to give back in different ways through our business itself, doing different charity works, getting ready to launch a mentoring program for foster care kids, or girls exclusively at this point, that have made it to college, and just trying to find different ways to share the light.
I think I just wanted you to go a little bit deeper. I really wanted to know, what does the Lord have you doing? Your job is what you've been assigned. Kimberly, maybe you can help Jodi out with this answer. What does God have you doing at ePayments?
Well, I think God has us bringing peace to people's lives because in the day to day, people get very confused. And if we have this expertise, we can, number one, help them. Number two, we make things very seamless. And there is no ridiculous question out there. We like to sit down with our clients, as we always tell them, you'll know more about payment processing and interchange and all those crazy terms you hear than you probably ever wanted to. Because I think what we both know is if we can bring people peace in the day to day and have them know that when interacting with us, we are kingdom driven and that is how we live our life and try and bring that peace into the day to day. We try to take something that can be very confusing and complex and simplify it.
That's so good because there are so many areas of our businesses that we don't know anything about, but to be able to have some trusted place where they can go and learn the things that they maybe didn't even want to learn, but to get peace in the process. Because a lot of times it comes out of frustration and things like that. So why take that even just one more step? And why do you think he has you doing this very work that he has you doing, Kimberly?
I have no idea. It's one of those things. I got into this by accident years ago, but what I love the most about it is that every day is different. We're dealing with entrepreneurs to Fortune 50 household name companies, and everybody, there are different nuances. And I think that what I've come to realize is that it's the relationships that I love. Nobody likes to do paperwork. Nobody likes to understand and do reconciliation and things like that. But if we can make it fun and we can really connect, most of our clients, we don't have any attrition because they've been with us for years and they become friends and we care. So
I'd like to change it. But you said you got into it by accident. I'd like to challenge you to say, I think you got into it by incident, a God incident. That's what that was. So Jodi, how do you work with him in all of this, him being God? So you've got this thing that the two of you are experts in payment processing in all sorts of shapes, forms, and fashions. How do you work with him in all of this?
I think, I was going to piggyback on what was just said, but I think this gives me the perfect opportunity. We happen to be in an industry that is very male dominant. It has a reputation for being slimy, to say the least. People get taken advantage of. And I think this is one way to really stand out and be a difference in an industry that just doesn't normally see female leaders to start with, but then female leaders that are doing it the right way and being trustworthy and having integrity and being honest and blending your faith into your work.
Yeah, I think what's so important is that Dave Ramsey's famous for saying this, you got to be knowing where your money's going. And in payment processing, that is so true because these payment processors are sending your money to places that we don't want it to really go. Why is choosing a banking vendor carefully so important, Jodi?
I think you said it beautifully. Like, you don't know, you need to do your research and see what these companies stand behind. We do have a whole lot of solutions. We partner with over 40 banks across the globe so that we have a solution. So we really can drive those transactions to where we feel is the best fit. So, I think just do your research and dig into what the company stands for.
Martha, it was like 6 years ago that we really started paying attention to where our money was going and what it was supporting. We called it, at that time, we became aware of biblically responsible investing, to making sure that our investment portfolio was invested in companies that weren't supporting the opposite, which our listeners have been learning about all throughout this time. One of the steps is to start looking at all the other places our money makes an impact. Many services that we choose to help us run our nonprofit use their profits for causes that go directly against our biblical worldview. And we are absolutely not comfortable with that scenario and have started assessing areas of our lives that need to change. Today's show is a result of that search. ePayments is redefining the world of traditional payment processing, and we're so excited to tell you more about it in the rest of this show. And in the show notes, we'll have a link to their website, which is ePayments, MINTS.com.
So I love having this conversation and digging into things that really make a difference in our own lives. And Kimberly, I'd love to hear from you. What are the biggest challenges that you face in running your business, both in, spiritual challenge and physical challenge?
Oh, wow. The biggest challenge is letting go and letting God. That has been the biggest thing for me. My word is let go and surrender for this year. I am a very type A personality, and I always think I have to take this on me. Nobody else is going to do it. I've got to do it. And I have a very hard time delegating, and I have a very hard time letting go of things because, as I mentioned, we do have a team that supports us. But as these clients become friends and we care, as I said, it becomes very hard for me to say, things are going to fall where they may, or God guide me and tell me what to do in this situation. Or, there's so many different things that happen in a day. And I'm doing a lot of reading of the Torah, the Old Testament right now. And there is no word for coincidence in the Hebrew language. So sometimes kicking back and saying, okay, I don't know why this is happening now or why this went this direction, but there is a reason for it. We all have those stories where we thought something was happening and life wasn't happening for us. It was happening to us. And so sometimes I have to be still, which when I am struggling, I seem to always pull up on a book and it tells me if I'm looking for guidance, be still. And that is not easy for me to do.
One of the things we learned in March of 2010 is that even though we're surprised by what is happening, God's not surprised by this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So important. So, Jodi, how do you deal with hurt, disappointment, and failure as business owners? If you're going to be different, you're going to be a kingdom payment processor. You're going to be focused on being still when things are challenging. How do you deal with the hurt, the disappointment, and the failure as a business owner?
Ooh, that one's a fresh one, Jim. No, I think it goes back to our what we're called to do is to realize that we all are human. We all have flaws. We all are those lost sheep. And to look at everybody in those eyes as Jesus looks at us, and that is easier said than done. I've had struggles just recently where all you can do is pray for the person that may have caused the hurt. But I think the biggest thing is just truly trying to have that unconditional love and just look at people as lost souls.
Thank you so much for sharing that, because I think for a lot of our listeners, we think we're alone in things like that, where we don't know how other people are dealing with it. And to make it so, take it down to the bare bones. It's praying for those lost souls, because we don't know what they're experiencing. We only know how it's affecting us. And in business, there's all kinds of hurts and disappointments and frustrations that come up. But helping others to see how they can process it with God on their side is such a huge part of why we have these conversations with you, to let other people peek in and say, how are other people doing it? How are they bringing themselves to the table? Because God's already at the table, right? It's like we just need to pull up a chair and say, okay, Lord, show us. Jim, you asked that question earlier. How do we work with God in that? And that's one of the things we're really focusing on this year, is leaning into that and say, God is wanting us to participate with him. How are we doing that?
So that's really our word for 2024 is instead of I work for him, I work with him. Yeah.
So on the flip side of that, it's we all have different times where we have disappointments and hurts and stuff like that. But we also want to hear about success, because we get encouraged when we hear other people that have moved a little further down the road. So Jodi, let's go to you. And what do you see as one of your biggest successes as a business owner?
Yeah, I think being in business, we just celebrated 8 years and so much gratitude for that. I most businesses fail in the first 5, and then the statistics even change in the next 5. So just the fact that we're still here, just to be raw and real, like celebrating is probably one of our biggest downfalls. Kim and I are both type A and achievers. So we're always like trying to get to that next step. So we've had to slow down and celebrate those successes. Like, what have we accomplished? The fact that we're still here after all these years, the company that we've built, how many times we pivoted over those 8 years and changed our business model and failed over and over and over again. And then I think the other thing, we always were thinking like this next, there was going to be some big thing, and we are the tortoise, not the hare. Like it is doing things small and building upon that makes you successful.
Kimberly, what's your perspective on that? But that, as you deal with success as a business owner, how do you keep it in perspective that you guys are really not owners, you're stewards? I mean, how do you keep that proper perspective so it doesn't blow your head up?
Well, I think that Jodi and I working together, we actually treat it like a marriage because it kind of is. And we do a Bible study together every Monday to start our week. And that's usually the day that we do strategy as well. And in my mind, that's the biggest success because it sets the tone for the week. I've come to realize in doing that, our experiences don't determine our peace and how we feel and go through the day. It's really our minds. If we are peaceful internally, then whatever is happening around us in the storm, we're going to be fine walking forward. So we have done we've gone on retreats together. Like I said, we do different readings. We're studying Hosea right now and trying to work because then when we're discussing problems over the last couple of years where we've really zeroed in to do this, we're discussing them even in a very different way. And I'm proud of Jodi. I'm proud of myself for this because, again, it sounds so easy to sit here and talk about this, but it's been very hard to implement it into your day-to-day life.
Okay, so what I want to know, though, as the two of you study Hosea, what are you pulling up for business people?
What are we pulling up? Well, I think the biggest thing for me, at least, is that when God told Hosea to go find a prostitute and marry Gomer, I mean, I don't run into that in a day-to-day basis. But he wasn't questioning, why are you telling me to do this? This makes absolutely no sense. And so that's what I've taken from it thus far, is that there may be something that pops up, because one of my favorite sayings is God's ways are ingenious, his methods are sure. And I've stopped trying to intellectualize everything and really sit back and look for the revelation. And maybe I don't need to understand why it's happening, but it is happening. So let me look for guidance here.
And often God asks us to do things that absolutely don't make sense because that's where faith comes in this whole deal.
That's right. That's right. So Jodi, how do you guys want to bless the Christ-centered nonprofits?
I think by giving them an opportunity to have us, for example, as an outlet for not just, we hope we are able to partner with them for their business, but also just that voice of like, is this okay? Does this look good? Like being that expertise for them. And then blessing back, like we have programs where we have the ability to take some of the fees and give them back to a charity or, however you want those used. So that is a big push for us, is to give back within our fee structure to something that's important to the client.
And it kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier, just as far as knowing where your money is going. And people that are your clients know that there's a pay it forward model in there. And, things that don't bless us are often the opposite. They're a curse. And, one area of the world that is filled with darkness and the world of evil is on the wide web and the World Wide Web. And SaferNet has developed a safety net that protects those that we love at work and at home from this evil one. that I believe is prowling around and seeking people to devour. And yes, that's right. I'm not going to sugarcoat it today. It's really the evil one is out there, and SaferNet is our choice. And I work for him and personally to help us be on guard. And the show notes will have the link to SaferNet's website, which is safernet.com. But that virtual VPN is just one other way that we can protect the work that we're doing that is honoring God and moving us forward.
All right. So I want you to both to answer this question. We'll start with you, Kimberly, though. What resources or organizations have blessed you as a Christian working woman to encourage you as you live out your faith at work?
Well, through Dan, who we all met through, around this time last year, we were at the Consumer Electronics Conference in Vegas, and that's where we met him. And that's where the idea for Charge for Charity came up. Now, it isn't built yet. It's just a concept right now, to Jodi's point about we can give part of our margin back. So even on our website, we've started a not-for-profit with my younger sister. It's called Abundance Therapies. And this summer, I had my kids out there seeing, sometimes when you give back, you need it more than the people you're giving to. That's what I've come to realize. And so a lot of our clients will sponsor these events. And in turn, we take care of everybody as if they're friends and family. We have another really good friend that owns a trauma center in Rice, Washington, and we sponsor them. We donate. We have Farm On Foundation. We work with Finally Home. We're working with you guys. Has
there been one resource that has been outside of scriptures that has been a real blessing to you? Maybe it was a book that you read, or maybe it was a speaker that you saw, or was there something?
I follow you.
Oh, it's fine. Maybe I just asked the question poorly.
Well, as I mentioned, we do a Bible study. Usually we'll choose, scripture, life way, but we read a book a while ago and it was called Spirit Driven Success. And this book was explaining that you need more good people with money because there aren't a lot of billionaires out there. God, I hope my computer doesn't shut down, but you don't hear Bill Gates or anybody, really out there saying, I am a believer and I am here to make money so that I can give it back. It's one thing to set up a foundation. It's another thing to actually give money, actually participate your time, the greatest thing we have on this earth, the gift of life. So donating your time. And that book really did it for me in that, yes, because sometimes they say money is the root of all evil and they try to tie it in with that, whereas I don't think so. I think it just magnifies and amplifies who you are as a person.
Yeah. And that's just a misquoting of scripture because it says money is the root of all sorts of evil, but money is neutral. It can be used for good, it can be used for evil.
Such good perspective. So Jodi, what about you? Is there something in your life, whether it is a podcast or a book or some sort of resource that has helped you in this journey?
I think it's people. So I've been blessed again. Like I have a dear friend that I have grown up with that runs her own company too. So we, kind of bounce ideas across each other. I mean, the blessings have been out there, like the Matt Roberts and the Dan Salazars that come into your life and just blow your mind with the things that they provide and grabbing your arm and going to battle with you. Another person is Rachel Barboa, who is just phenomenal. And Kim and I had an opportunity to work with her and learn from her. And she is doing just amazing work in the world. So I think for me, it's been other people, some women, some men that have really been great mentors and leaders and teachers.
So if somebody, Jodi, is interested today in learning more about ePayments, they want to find out, I want to deal with a kingdom payment processor. How do they get a hold of you guys? And of course, everybody listening, make sure you tell them when you get in touch with them that you heard about him on I Work for Him. But what's the best way for people to get a hold of you, Jodi?
I would say check out our website. We are on all social media, and I'm sure that'll be in the notes today. But our website, or you can reach out to us personally on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is probably, a great place. And then I'm happy to share our emails or whatever is comfortable.
And that's ePayments, MINTS.com, ePayments.com. All right. Any final encouragement, Kimberly, for our listeners today? Maybe it's for our Christian working women listening audience. Is there any final notes of encouragements that you want to leave with anybody? You get the last word.
Oh my goodness. Well, I would say we would love to work with you, especially women. No offense, Jim, but we like to help women and guide them through this. And I think that draw nigh to him and he will draw nigh to you, and that God wants a relationship with you. And that's what we're busy over here trying to build. And we love having people that are like-minded in our sphere.
Very nice. Kimberly, Coley, Jodi, Durst, thank you so much for being on I Work For Him today.
Thank you for having us.
Guys.
You've been listening to I Work For Him with your hosts, Jim and Martha Brangenberg. We're Christ followers. Our workplace, it's our mission field, but ultimately, I work for him. This episode of I Work For Him is brought to you by SaferNet. Online, safernet.com.
Calling all entrepreneurs and parents, protecting those we love on the internet is important. Safeguard your ventures and loved ones with SaferNet VPN. Our cybersecurity app keeps you safe on any device. Shield your business from cyber threats while ensuring a family-friendly online environment. Simplify your digital life with SaferNet VPN today. Get secured now. Sign up at safernet.com. That's safernet.com.
Did you know that God has a calling on your life? It's true. He's called you to bring Jesus to the world. For some, that may look like a pulpit or a foreign mission field, but for most of us, it looks like a construction site, a cubicle, a hospital, or a classroom. Wherever it is that you work, live, volunteer, and invest, that is your mission field. To learn more about integrating your faith into your work and retirement, check out our books, I Work For Him, She Works For Him, and I Retire For Him, by going to iworkforhim.com/bookstore.
Thanks for listening to the I Work For Him podcast with your hosts, Jim and Martha Brangenberg. Please visit iworkforhim.com to learn more about connecting your faith and work, to join the I Work For Him Nation, or subscribe to our weekly blog. You can also follow us on social media at I Work For Him to stay up to date and meet our guests. If today's message spoke to you, please subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast platform. Your review will launch more workplace missionaries across America. That's at I Work For Him and online at iworkforhim.com. I work, 4, him.com.